Hello, everyone. And today I'm talking about my favorite topic, which is MBA applications. And I'm actually going to get to it from a do's and don'ts kind of perspective. And maybe I'll also give you some tips and pitfalls. So I think we can start with this presentation. I hope you're excited like I am. And I'm very excited. My name is Shimri Winters. I'm from ARINGO MBA Admissions Consulting. We're a boutique consulting firm helping candidates just like you get into top MBA programs. This is a bit about ARINGO. What do we do? Everything from chances estimation, school selection, project planning, then writing with you the application, reviewing your application, everything, interview prep, scholarship essays, everything, including everything and more. Check us out on aringo.com. We're very good. Uh, that was my marketing slide. Let's move to this presentation. So again, the purpose of this presentation is for applicants who are thinking or just starting to work on the MBA applications or kind of thinking of MBA applications in the next year or two. And I'm kind of going to talk about like common pitfalls, do's and don'ts, and things you should probably consider at this stage. You can watch some other of our YouTube videos which go into detail in nearly any one of these ideas. So choosing the right school, CV, resume, interviews, all of this, we have specific videos talking about each one of these components. But let's talk again today about how do you choose the right business school for you. And then we can talk about strategizing your story for the application. Uh, very important to talk then about, I was going to sneeze, but I decided not to. Very important to talk about the application components. So resume, essays, recommendations, the interview. So I'll give you some do's and don'ts and avoiding common mistakes and some tips from me. And again, this is kind of a high level presentation, which you should start from it. And then depending on your stage of the application, you can dig into some other presentations we have, or just talk to us on aringo.com to help you with your actual application. Okay, so I think the first thing when we talk about applying to top MBA programs is actually choosing the right, I should have put 3 lines under the right MBA program for you. And it sounds great, but I talk to 700 people. I talk to hundreds of people a year, on Zoom, on the phone, face to face. And we have thousands of applicants on our site. And from a I've never checked this officially, so I'm just going to say that 80% of applicants, tell me, oh yeah, and I've done some research and there's 2 schools that really fit my ambition and my profile. I don't know about other candidates, but there's 2 schools that fit me. They happen to be Harvard and Stanford. Yeah, I don't know what other candidates were talking about. So there's many factors, and not just Harvard and Stanford are the right schools for you. They're great schools, but there's lots of other schools as well. And again, I have a whole video about how do you choose a school, but there's definitely many factors, including culture and class size, the location, teaching style. Maybe there's a certain professor that you really like, heard of, read his or her book, some kind of volunteering or professional opportunity. Maybe your family live in this city. Maybe you've always dreamt about studying at Cambridge. So there might be many factors you need to consider. I'll show you what I do with these factors. Definitely, what you want to do is kind of align the program offering with your personal factors and goals and career aspirations. And if your life dream is to work in Tesla, maybe don't go and study in Germany. Although they have a factory in Germany, so don't go and study in Luxembourg. If your dream, a personal dream, is to live in the UK, it doesn't make a lot of sense to go and study in Canada. I'm not saying there aren't great schools in the US or in Canada, but the UK MBA programs will probably lead to a UK job. So there's a lot of factors here which are beyond just, kind of the ranking of the school or something else. There's lots of factors. I know this sounds obvious, but every year I have candidates who I work with, for example, very good candidates, which we work on M7 school, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, Columbia. Okay, I'll finish that. Chicago Booth, Northwestern Kellogg, MIT Sloan. And then they say, you know what? I'm going to apply to a top 20 school, which is definitely a safer, and they're going to get into a top school. And I'm going to apply because I want to get a high scholarship and I'm going to use that for negotiation. And then I ask them, but if you don't get into your dream schools, are you going to go to a less good school? I'm not going to name a school so I don't badmouth a school, but let's say Kentucky Community College is not very real university. And they say, no, no way. I'm not going to go to that university. I'm just applying for the scholarship. So don't do that. Only apply to schools that you want to go to. And if you're applying to 5 schools, the 5th school you might be very disappointed. You might have wanted to go into your first 4 choices, but the 5th school is a good school that you're happy with. If you don't get into the first 4, that's fine. Apply to 5, apply to 6, apply to 10. But don't apply to 11 or to 5 or 6 or beyond that if you just don't want to study there. Um, and also, if there isn't a good fit, for example, if you don't have a chance of getting into a top school because your GMAT is very low and your profile is very bad, so you're probably not going to get into a top school. So don't waste your time, don't waste their time, and don't waste your time. So it goes both ways. Don't apply to too high schools, although it's a dream. If you don't have a chance, just a waste of time and money. And don't apply to a school that you don't want to go to if you get accepted. That's a waste of time and money as well. So what I do, I take these factors, and then when I talk to candidates, I tell them, okay, what are the factors that are important for you? So, some people tell me, only ranking. I don't care about any of these factors. Some people say, you know what? Kellogg and Chicago, that's very, very cold, minus 30 Celsius degrees in the winter. I don't want to study there. I'm looking for West Coast schools and, nice and warm in LA. So everybody has their own criteria and their own weight on criteria. And here I gave you a complete fake example. And I decided that my candidacy only cares about 4 criteria. I don't care about culture, and I don't care about class size. I don't care about that. That was just my fake criteria. I care about location, and in this specific criteria, I preferred the US, but I like nice warm places. So, I gave here 3 schools. I'm comparing Harvard, which is in Boston, UCLA, which is in LA, and INSEAD, which is in the Fontainebleau in an hour away from Paris. So, I'm comparing 3 schools. And in this specific case, I'm giving location LA a 9, Harvard an 8, and INSEAD a 7. Okay. Then I'm looking at the brand. I decided to look at the US News, Financial Times rankings, 2 MBA rankings. Harvard ranks very well in both. INSEAD isn't ranked on the US News because it's only US programs, but INSEAD was ranked good. I gave it a 9. UCLA, ranked a bit lower. I gave it an 8. Again, true, not true. That's my criteria, my weight. Program length. I decided that for me, a long program is better because I'm looking for a career switch. INSEAD is a 1-year program. The other programs are 2 years. I gave them a 10, INSEAD a 7. Maybe for you, it's vice versa. Maybe you're looking at return on investment, and short programs are better. I don't know for you. So you need to decide. Cost, well, INSEAD costs less. UCLA, I put an 8 because I got a 50% scholarship there or some other lie. And Harvard was very expensive. Recruiters, I was looking, my dream is to work in consulting and in Europe, but if not in tech in the Silicon Valley. So in this specific case, oh yeah, I love this. I gave a 12 to INSEAD because 40-50% go to consulting. So, I gave them a very high number. And, if to work at McKinsey in London, yeah, that would be amazing. I wouldn't like to work in Boston, so I gave that an 8 and, whatever. Okay, so you kind of understand the way I did this table. And then I gave a weight to each one of these criteria because in my specific fake case, recruiters got a higher weight than the location of the school. And who cares about the brand? I'm caring about the recruiters, okay, or whatever. So that's how I gave this 20-15% weight. And then in my fake example, INSEAD and UCLA are the best fit for me. Harvard is a bit less good for me. Okay, so again, this is how you kind of prioritize schools. You build some kind of table with the factors that are interesting for you. You give them the weight that you think about, and try not to go beyond 4 or 5 factors. It's going to get very complicated. And then you can fill out this information and kind of find the schools that are fit for you. And it's really interesting. I've done this exercise with some candidates who, started with one school, and then in the end we kind of got to different conclusions. Um, Again, go with your heart. If you've always dreamt about ESA Barcelona, go for it, even if it scores low on this table. But don't go for the 7 schools that score low on your table. Okay, second topic of this presentation is the story. My family really like escape rooms. And if you've been to an escape room, there's usually some kind of theme. Okay, so it's all the same. You go into a room, you get locked up, there's lots of riddles, you have to get out of the room within an hour, right? That's an escape room. But there's drawings on the wall of Harry Potter or Sherlock Holmes or, whatever theme. You're a bank robber or whatever, or a spy. And this is important. The school kind of want to know who you are. And, some of the MBA programs are receiving 10,000 applications, and they want to kind of remember you. So are you an innovator in a conservative company? Are you a government worker who really wants to do an MBA to go back to government organizations and implement, private company strategies? Are you a programmer who wants an MBA to be a product manager to then open your startup or maybe to move to VC? So kind of identify what you've done to date. Identify what you want to tell the schools in your professional journey. Maybe there's some kind of leadership in your experience. Then kind of choose the stories. Okay, so here at ARINGO, we usually interview our candidates at the beginning, and we build something that we call a story bank, which we can choose out of that the best the best stories, the theme of the candidate. Okay, so again, you're sharing your resume. They know who you are, but there's a way to tell your story. Why did you move from one place to another? Why did you choose a certain job? Even failure stories, why did you choose them? And then kind of connect your narrative to your career goals. Okay, so if your narrative is, I'm a great accountant, I worked for 2 Big 4 companies, Deloitte and PwC. I always get the reports out on time. I'm very analytical. I'm really amazing. And I want an MBA to be a marketing manager in Netflix. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. So your past needs to be connected to your career goals. And there needs to be kind of a narrative. Okay, and even if your career goals involve some kind of career shift, we still need to see a narrative. Okay, before I said programmer that wants to be a product manager, as long as it's in the same industry, and he will use his technical skills that he gained as a programmer, and then he will use them and the MBA business skills to go to product management. That makes sense. But again, my Netflix marketing manager, if your background is accounting, show me the story. Maybe it works. Maybe you're very, very passionate and you write a blog about movies. Maybe in your spare time you do something that will kind of help to to make a bridge between your past and your future. So definitely think about that. I think keeping the story authentic is super important. Okay, it's very nice to make things look nicer, polish them up. Definitely do all that. You want your application to shine. Once it's less authentic, school reviewers are very quick to catch things, very quick. When I used to interview for London Business School, and I used to get applications sometimes on the first page of an essay. You can see this is just total rubbish. So be authentic. People that read applications know stuff. So if you're saying you're a Deloitte manager after 3 months from your undergraduate degree, they know that's probably not possible. Okay, that's probably, it's probably a route that takes people 3 to 5 years. Maybe if you were super quick and got the promotion after two, it's like 3 promotions after 2.5 years. Yeah, great, that's amazing. So But to say that you were a manager after 2 months, some other lie, people will catch that very quickly. And even if they don't, and from some kind of amazing reason you manage to fool someone and you get an interview, the interviewers might come from your industry, might come from your company, might come from your background, and they will just know it's total rubbish. So you wasted your time, your money, and your chance to get into a school. So definitely keep the story authentic, and it just all needs to be aligned properly: essays, resume, recommendations, and the story you're trying to say with your career goals. Let's look at those three components: essays, resume, and recommendations, and then the interview. So regarding the resume, definitely I have a whole YouTube about resumes, but definitely highlight measurable, quantifiable impact that you've done, leadership, results if there are any. So don't kind of describe what you do in your day to day. Describe what the impact was, what the result was. Again, if you focusing on some kind of theme that we discussed in the previous slide, try and highlight something to do with this theme. If we were talking about I'm an innovator in a conservative organization, so try and show that you implemented a new strategy, the first one within 30 years, and you, I don't know, train 10 people to help them with this strategy, something like that. And I know this sounds strange, but again, watch some of my other videos. I've seen sloppy resumes. People have worked on their MBA applications tens, maybe hundreds of hours. And then in the resume, I can see 3 different bullet types. I can see alignments to the left and the right and not aligned. And I can see headers in different font sizes. Okay, now all this sounds very petty. Okay, I agree. The content is key. The content is one important, but it's not Google reading your application. It's not AI reading your application. It's someone like you and I that is reviewing this document for the first time. And you kind of get one chance. And if someone's reviewing it and it just doesn't look good before they even read the content, that's kind of a turnoff, right? And one of the last things I've seen more and more, definitely when people are starting to use AI, kind of a mistake, is avoiding general descriptions and buzzwords. Okay, so when someone says something like, "Yeah, I helped migrate the system," okay, what does that mean? Okay, so if you tell me you helped migrate a system to 100 users and trained 100 users to use the new system, resulting in 28% of saving, okay, now I understand what you did. But when you just give me buzzwords and again, AI, chat, Gemini, Perplexity, amazing at this, amazing at giving you in the fourth letter, usually fourth word of the first bullet, there will be the word pivoted. They love that word. And some other, kind of AI buzzwords. There's a framed, but there's a few others that I just recognize it from the first beginning. Again, watch my whole YouTube on why not to use AI in your MBA applications, but definitely avoid just using buzzwords without like the full explanation. And again, a resume, your work resume is very different than your MBA application resume. And I would even say that sometimes you need to customize your MBA application resume per school to make sure it kind of fits the school values. Okay, we talked about the resume, let's talk about the essays. Again, we discussed kind of the story and authenticity, but a big pitfall is answering the question. And a lot of people reuse essays, and that's okay sometimes, or you can reuse some of the essay number 1 in a school to answer essay number 2 in a different school, but not all of it. Definitely answer the question, because a lot of times MBA programs will say, okay, essay number 1, why MBA and why now and why us? Okay, and then people might answer, oh yeah, I really want an MBA because I want to shift from a programmer to be an investment banker. And now is the best time for me. Minor detail, you forgot to answer the why us. Or you forgot to answer the why now. So first of all, just focus on the full question. and be very, like we said, authentic. Try and think of the theme we're trying to tell the MBA program, this bridge from the past to the future, and why you need why you need an MBA and why you need their MBA. Definitely connect all your experiences. So this is something that I think I forgot to say in the resume, where I say kind of use the entire resume. Okay, so you can use the extracurricular section, you can use the education section to show various things. Same thing here. Use your professional experience, use your personal experiences, use your volunteering experiences, use your hobby experiences to show your values, to show your skills, and connect the entire story, professional, hobbies, everything to your career goals and why MBA, etc. Give specific examples. Again, I kind of touched this before with the AI. Don't give me kind of random, high level, nicely written English stuff that doesn't say anything. I really want to know about you, what you did, and what happened. And you can definitely have, AI review your essay, or a professional consultant kind of check the English, but the tone can be very personal. I've seen very nice essays that write not in a nice way, but it was just very personal. So I really liked and enjoyed reading them, and they were different. They were engaging. So it definitely has to be professional, but it can be personal and reflective. Um, and like I said, the essays have to reinforce this whole story that we're trying to say and the whole strategy. So the CV, essays, recommendation, everything needs to support your profile and your candidacy to the school. When we're talking about recommenders, first of all, choose your recommenders correctly. And I've seen candidates make so many mistakes in this crucial step. Mistake number one, choosing celebrities. Maybe you know a minister, maybe your family know a very important person somewhere. But if he didn't work with you, and he can't say, I've been working with Shimri for 3 years and I've studied him versus 10 other people and he's the best, that's a big problem. So you really need to choose kind of a recommender who's worked with you. You need someone who can elaborate and not just say Shimri is the best. They want to see a lot of examples. So you're going to have to choose someone who's okay in writing and knows you very well, and is okay in kind of elaborating stuff. Um, this is the biggest mistake I've seen, especially in round two. It's very close to Christmas. A lot of the recommenders are, in Thailand on the beach because they're senior managers. They're on holiday, and you suddenly bother them with a recommendation that might be 2,000 words. You might be applying to several business schools, so definitely give them plenty of time. You can definitely talk to them before and share anything you wish. Remember that time you said I was the best? That would be good. Remember that time you gave me positive feedback? I've really progressed since then. And of course, share with them the whole I'm going to do an MBA and this is the reason why. I think that's important. That's legitimate. And they will need to know this information to write the best recommendation. I don't have to say this differently, but this is maybe I think in 2 slides, I talk about pitfalls and applying on time. If a recommender didn't submit his recommendation on time, this isn't his problem. This is your problem. So you need to kind of be on top of this project management. And schools, again, Harvard gets 12,000 applications a year. What they would really love to do very easily is to filter some of those out. So for example, if someone doesn't submit the recommendations on time, or if someone does some other mistake, they will just chuck you out without, there isn't too much time to negotiate this. They're busy. So definitely it's on you to get the recommendation on time. Okay. Last stage is hopefully if you apply an amazing application with a great resume and a great essay and a great recommendations, you will be called for an interview. So I used to interview for London Business School, and these are kind of mistakes and things I've seen that I think you should do. First of all, the interview can happen a month and a half after the application, which can happen several weeks after you've applied. Definitely research the school again. Okay, you need to intimately now know the school, and unlike the essays where you knew the 2 or 3 or 5 questions in advance, or 7 at NCAD, here you don't know the questions, and you might be asked, why London Business School? Which clubs do you want to join? Which professor do you want? Have you spoken to alumni? Have you spoken to students? Like, you would probably want to know this stuff. And I once prepared someone for an interview at Duke, and he was shocked that Duke is in North Carolina. So, I mean, you would be surprised how fast his interview would have finished if he wouldn't have come prepared for the interview. So definitely know the program thoroughly and know, to explain why you want that program. Practice questions. You can Google ARINGO MBA common questions. We call them the Big Nine, which is why MBA, why now? What are your career goals, your strengths, your weaknesses? Tell me about the time you succeeded and the time you failed. I think that something like that. Um, Definitely prepare answering those, but also prepare several stories. You can use the STAR system or another one. I have a whole video about preparing for MBA interviews. Um, and definitely prepare a story from various times in your past. It can be from university, it can be from volunteering, it can be from your professional experience that demonstrate leadership, uh, achievements, also failure, uh, things like that. Definitely show enthusiasm. Once I interviewed someone, I said, wow, you're such a great candidate. I'm excited that you're excited about London Business School. And his answer was, yeah, if I don't get into Harvard, I'm going to come. That was a no-no. Be enthusiastic about the school you're interviewing for, but there's a self-awareness. I think that's important. And I put here also like body language and dress, but it's fine to, not know everything. That's why you're going for an MBA. It's fine to have failed in the past. That's why, you're going for an MBA. So just be, authentic and self-aware. Definitely 12 to 24 hours after the interview, send a very brief thank you letter. I actually, there's something new that I've told my candidates to do, which is if they don't get in, um, they can definitely follow up with the interview. Also, if they do get in, definitely follow up with the interview and tell them you got admitted. That's good. And I would also follow up and say, I wasn't admitted. Do you have any feedback for me? I think that's also very important. Keep in mind, interviewers don't have to tell the truth and they don't have to give you any feedback. Okay, they can say, "Oh, that's so disappointed. I thought you would make it." No, they gave you 0 in the interview. Or they might say, "Oh, wow, wow, that's really shocking." They might not even remember you because they're ad cons and they interviewed 100 people, or they might not even answer back. But I definitely think we're all people. And I definitely think you can write some feedback. Okay, I have 2 more slides. We're nearly there. Here's some kind of pitfalls and mistakes. Um, Definitely, check the times. Okay, I think this is an obvious one. Proofread everything. I don't know how many times you can, and I don't know what the best system is to kind of maybe prepare everything and then leave it for a week and then read it again. But I've definitely seen many mistakes in final versions. Now, I don't want to sound dramatic, okay? If you have a spelling mistake in your essay or in your resume, or even 7 spelling mistakes, that's not what I'm talking about. If you write Harvard on your Chicago essay, that's less good. But again, not a huge mistake. But let's try and avoid these silly errors because we can. Um, MBA applications are short. Even if you have 5 essays and 2 recommendations and 1 resume and some online application questions, again, this is 5,000 words about you. Sounds a lot, but it's not. You're not going to tell them about your kindergarten teacher, and you're not going to tell them about what marmalade sandwich you like. But definitely use the entire application to give different information. And what I don't like, and I see sometimes, especially when we used to have like a test drive service when people don't work with us, but then send us kind of their review for a kind of a final review. Um, and then I kind of see the same example twice. And I'm like, why? You have such a good profile. And then when I ask the candidates, they say, yeah, because I wanted to give something from the last year. Why? Okay, maybe you asked for your biggest achievement, and then you asked what you learned from something. Give two different examples. That's absolutely fine. Um, be clear. Okay, don't overcomplicate your story. Yesterday, I was looking at some kind of a Harvard essay, and um, it's a programmer, and he's trying to say that he has other things besides being a programmer, and he spoke to clients in the field, and he was just overcomplicating it with kind of tech words. He was trying to sound very smart. Why? Just explain that. I'm a programmer, and I wanted to learn more about real client experience. So I interviewed 10 people using my system till I got it right. And he was using all different like human interface test strategies. No, you don't need that kind of wording. Okay, just be very clear, concise what you're trying to say. Um, Recommendations, we kind of said, just make sure you're choosing the right recommender. And again, last thing, double, triple, quadruple check everything. And some schools are a bit complicated. I studied at London Business School. Their online application is very, very long. Um, I recently gave a recommendation to someone for London Business School, someone I worked with, and I was filling out the recommendation. And in London Business School recommendation, there's a table, a ranking table at the beginning before I answered like question, and I just needed to tick in the box 1 to 5 how strong this applicant was on various factors. I think it was a communication skills, um, big picture knowledge, friendliness, don't know, writing skills, whatever. And there's a little star somewhere, and it says 1 is high and 5 is low. That might be a British thing. I'm sure in the US, 5 would be high and 1 would be low. Okay. So if someone wouldn't read the instructions very fast, and let's say this is a fantastic candidate, I just want to give him 5, 5, 5, 5, 5 on everything, whatever. Read the instructions. So that was a recommender's advice, which you have little support on that because he's doing it. But definitely follow your instructions very clearly. There's a lot of questions in the online applications. There's a reason for most of them. Some are just for school statistics, some are to strengthen your application. Go through them as well. And my last slide about some tips that can, really showcase your unique story. So I think the first one we kind of discussed, we discussed most things, is highlighting achievements. And I think the key here is don't just use your professional experience. You can use your extracurricular experience. You can use your volunteering, your hobbies to demonstrate leadership and impact that you've done. This is crucial for MBA programs. The second thing is like this compelling story. And we said you can use it across your application. And it's very important to connect the dots between the past and why MBA and the future. And just in kind of an authentic story, again, if you just say something that doesn't sound good, they'll rule you out very quickly. So, your aim is to pass. And it's very hard to do it, with lies. You just need to tell your story. Definitely look at that each school that you're applying to, at the values, at the culture of the school. And if a school puts emphasis on team, and if a school puts emphasis on group situations and group collaboration, you might want to talk about your team and group communication style, and team and group achievements, and team and group work experiences, and team and group global experiences that you've had, and kind of connect what you've done to what you believe the school is looking for. Super important. I said this before, like use very clear and engaging language. Okay, don't have to overcomplicate things. Just needs to be clear, obviously professional, just clear. Seek feedback from mentors, peers, or a professional company like ours. Super important, like we said with this second review, third review. And the last is kind of don't be cocky. Okay, show self-awareness. You're definitely not at the peak of your professional experience. You're not the CEO of Microsoft yet. You've had some mistakes, you've failed, and you want the MBA to continue your growth, and you have a lot of potential, and that's what you want to show. The last is kind of talk to us. This is what we do for a living, 21 years already. We help candidates get into top MBA programs. Check out our statistics. They're all online, and we're here to help. at various stages. If you're just at the stage that you want the school selection assistance, or you want the story selection, we call it like the strategy stage, or you want full support, we're here for you. So this brings me to the end. And if you have any questions, you can always just email me directly. You can scan this barcode for a free profile evaluation. We're here for you. Good luck, guys, and see you in our next videos. Bye for now.